Rito, and today we're taking a look at improving the bone splitters. So let's first have a look at what are the issues of bone splitters, and then we'll have a look at how to improve them. So first off, the damage characteristic is really good. We can see 17 is average again on this ranking system, so being above the average is always good, so their damage is nice. Then we've got survivability, which is average, so I think that's perfectly fine. And keeping in mind, I'm mostly using for my list the more damaging and less survivable models. So even like even the more boys who are higher damage, less survivability, even those are survivable enough to be good point value. So I still think survivability is not the issue for this warband. Then we've got movement. Obviously, movement is more of an issue. 4 points of average movement is not great. Puts them into 11th place. So we'll have a look if that needs to be changed. Then we've got model count, and that's where these guys really fall down. In 7.5, that's not a great rank. So 7 models is not that much. You would really want more. But most of their models are quite expensive, and the cheaper ones really aren't good, so that's a bit of the issue here. Then we've got average range, which is like, it's not horrible because they've got some 2-inch range in there, but really what they would need are archers. They have those, but the auric archers are quite bad, and I'm going to talk about them in a second, but I think that's a big issue for these guys. Then they've got no flying, of course, and their abilities are not great either. So their ability score at 17 is quite below average as well. So as you can see, there's quite a few things we might want to tackle. Let's actually start by looking at some abilities. So, sorry, I'm going to zoom in here as well. There we go. Good. So for abilities, these are the standard abilities. So we've got a double, which allows you to have a free movement action towards the closest enemy fighter, which is amazing in my opinion. Great ability. Then you've got a double for the more boys, who already do quite good damage, 4 damage per action, which allows you to throw 1 dice, and on a 3 to 4 you deal 1 damage, on a 5 to 6 you deal damage equal to the value. So I calculated through the thing, and the thing is, this ability is worth it only in very, very, very few cases. So only if the opponent has toughness 5, because if he doesn't, attacks will always be better. And you're using a double 6, so only if your double is a 6, and you're fighting twice. So if I can explain that, obviously you can only use 1 double. So this double ability for the more boy is in competition with this one and the normal ability onslaught. So if you are not yet in combat, you always want to use the free movement action, because that means you'll get another attack action, a full extra attack action basically, because then you can attack twice instead of once, and that will always yield more damage than using the double here. So that's if you are not yet in combat. If you are already in combat, I've looked at how the average damage looks for using Onslaught, and Onslaught will typically give you like an extra 1.3 damage per action. So that means 2.6 damage on top if you are taking 2 actions fighting. Now if you're using this ability, even on 6s, your average damage per action is lower than that. Sorry, your average damage is going to be lower than this. So your average damage even on a 6 is only going to be 2.4 or something, which is not amazing. So yeah, only if the opponent is toughness 5 and you roll the 6 on your double, it's actually going to be worth it using this ability. Yeah, in my opinion, that's really bad. So I would probably not take this ever. Then we've got a, a double for the totem, which is add 1 to the toughness to all fighters within 6 inches. I am normally very much not a fan of adding 1 toughness, because toughness is overrated in this game. I've talked about it in the past. Toughness is not great. However, normally warbands get this who already have a lot of toughness and are already very survivable. These guys don't have the greatest toughness. All of them only have toughness 4 or even 3. So having one of these guys to buff your toughness 3 guys to toughness 4 is actually not that bad, and it's only on a double. So if this was a triple it would be horrible, but on a double I think it's actually not a bad ability. And we've got the triple from the leader, which is obviously amazing. Add the value of this ability to the move characteristic to all fighters within 6 inch. Amazing. Beautiful ability. Would totally use that all the time. Then we've got a triple for the arrow boys, which is add 1 attack to ranged attacks. So to all attacks with range 3 or higher. That is really bad. Really, really bad, because it's basically onslaught, which is nice, but for a triple and not a double. Now, yes, it is to ranged attacks, but there's other warbands, like Idoneth Deepkin, for example, that have that same ability on a double, so that makes very little sense to me. And then we've got a quad, which is add 1 to the attack characteristics, and then you get 1 extra action for every enemy you take down. I think that's a cool quad ability, which might come up sometimes, probably not very often, but it's a nice one. So what would I change? Well, I would make the arrow boy triple a double. That is going to improve the arrow boy by quite a lot, I can tell you, because you'll always have more doubles than triples. You'll probably never waste a triple on this ability, but the double you will, and that will already improve the arrow boy a lot. And then I would change the Morboy double to being a triple, but then you're throwing 2 dice. So potentially you're increasing your damage a lot by this. Now this suddenly will be worth it in most cases, but it's going to be a triple, so you won't be using it all the time. But I still think that's a lot better, because you're not competing with the free move action and the onslaught all the time, and it's still a good ability now. So I think just doing this little change, having it throw 2 dice, is a lot better. And then we've got the quad to be remaining the same. So those are my changes to abilities, and I think it's going to improve the abilities of this warband enough to make them very competitive, to make them like be on the average and not lower end of the scale anymore. But that's not going to fix all problems of this warband. This warband has a general problem with having too few models. Now, if I show you the list I've got, oops, sorry. If I show you the list I've got for this warband, let me show you here. Sorry, I'm going to zoom in as well. If I show you the list, you'll see I have 2 Savage Big Stabbers, 3 Morboys, 1 Morboy with Totem, and the Morboy boss. Now, so you can see I'm only using 7 models, because those are the more expensive models. So you're saying, hey, if this is the issue, why don't you just take like Savage Orcs and with Chompers or Stabbers or some of the Arrow Boys? Well, the issue is that all of these models are quite bad as it is. They are all geared towards toughness. They have 4 toughness, 15 wounds, which is pretty decent for guys who are at this price range. But the damage output is horrible. It's horrendous damage output for both the arrows and the melee guys. And I think that's really the issue. So you really don't want to bring these guys, because they are going to pull your warband's damage output down really badly. And they are too expensive, in my opinion, to just bring with you. So yeah. So what I would propose here, and I know I've stayed clear of changing existing warrior cards because I think it might be an issue with like you'd have to release a new card pack or something or errata it or whatever. It's not great. I don't love it, but I think this warbands really needs cheaper models. So I would suggest reducing the point cost of the Savage Arrow Boy to 75 points. So that's 15-point drop. And then to balance that, take the wounds down to 10. Because I think having a ranged unit with high wounds count is always bad. Because you don't want these guys to be in combat. And if this higher wound count means that poor damage output is going to be valued at a high point cost, that's bad. I think you need to lower the points, lower the wounds for these guys, and then you'll have a very decent ranged option. You'll have a fighter who can, on a double, shoot 3 attacks with the standard shooting profile basically. And I think at this point, the Savage Arrow Boy will be worth taking and you'll have more models on the field. Equally, for the Stabber and the Chomper, I would get rid of at least 10 points for these guys, make them 75 points, and then drop 5 wounds. Make them true chaff models. Chaff models are important. All warbands that have access to 50-point, 55-point models, they are really good. Now I don't suggest pulling them down that much, but if you drop these guys by 10 points, they will be so much better. They will be an actual option to choose over the Moorboy just because they cost a lot less then. And I think that will allow you to get over those big issues of having too few models in the warband and having very poor shooting. So I think those two changes would really help the warband. Now guys, please do let me think what you think. Let me know what you think, and yeah, I would love to hear your opinions on it. See you guys next time.